You know it's bad when critics are now showing their criticism toward With Love Meghan Season 2, the very same critics that once enjoyed Season 1 back in March of this year. That really just goes to show you the current status of this newest season of With Love Meghan, and how much of a big ratings disaster it truly is behind closed doors over at Netflix, and of course how the public sees it as we speak. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, we know that the press tour has been abysmal for Meghan Markle, for Netflix executives, producers, etc., and it has been nothing more than a downward spiral for weeks now. We know that they only actually ended up completing reshoots about a month ago. They rushed through the show, they edited it all together in a matter of weeks before dropping this thing just 2 days ago on Netflix. And well, it gets even worse when it comes down to Meghan Markle and her views toward the critics that actually decided to betray her, decided to actually stab her in the back and say, yeah, we're not supporting the show anymore, we're not going to actually stand up for this anymore. And that just goes to show you that she also not only lost her own fans, or whatever little fans that she has, but even the trusted critics that once were propping up Season 1 that are now actually turning down on Season 2. Let's get into this. Now, one thing about Meghan Markle is that we know that she is constantly trying to essentially recapture herself as a so-called actress, back to when she was on Suits, right? Which wasn't even all that significant to begin with, let's be very real about this. But she's trying to prop herself up as a working actress, as an actual, involved actress in Hollywood, in the film industry, or whatever you want to make out of that. However, with the Meghan Markle drama already beginning to escalate once again, days after the release of With Love Meghan Season 2, one major development going on now involves Meghan Markle displaying a major temper tantrum to the general public after Season 2 went through terrible reviews, both critics and viewers. Meghan recently delivered the following: I think the thing that hurts the most for me as a woman of color are those that are so blatantly obvious to have issues with diversity, and how we represented that in Season 2. I think that not only myself, but the entire cast deserves respect. We are living in a very toxic environment now in 2025, given that reviews just aren't reviews anymore. They are attacks toward the creators, and those like myself who put so much time, effort, and energy into Season 2. I can't stress this enough, but to those out there mirroring criticism toward our show, it's all coming from a place against women and diversity, and it's just a terrible childish behavior that we need to constantly address in order to raise awareness about all the misogyny and sexism going on in this world right now. I feel it is my responsibility to really shed light on these issues, coming from both toxic males and even toxic women now, who are falling for negative criticism toward a show that we created that creates positivity for this world. In my case, critics have been very unfair. They have been cruel and one-sided, obviously, not showing their love for film and art, but showing their hate for diversity. All I can say is that I'm proud to be an actress, one who gets to experiment with art. But to see so many spewing their criticism towards something of value like this, I think it just proves that we are still dealing with a rise in uneducated American citizens, and it's something that's spreading and going out of control that we need to fix for a better society. I feel that is our only way to improve how viewers and critics display their criticism, whether it's through social media or even in the mainstream media. Actresses like myself deserve respect. The entire cast deserves respect. The acting that went into this thing came from such a passionate place, and to see the criticism that we are getting online, it's truly unfair and coming from a biased place, that's for sure. Now guys, let me just stop right there. Now, we know that the overall marketing campaign for With Love Meghan was a mess. It was a very ugly mess because basically Netflix dialed back on millions upon millions of dollars, and that's why you saw practically little to no trailers on television or TV spots for this actual series. There was really not all that much of a promotional campaign, almost non-existent this time for Season 2. But you also had the press tour when it came to Meghan Markle actually, going on all these different temper tantrums, all these different rants and tirades that really just don't make things better. In fact, it only makes things worse. And look, this is exactly why I said many times before in the past that A lot of these personalities and celebrities, people like Robert De Niro, in this case Meghan Markle, or those out there like Rachel Zegler, George Clooney, Julia Roberts, the list goes on, Alec Baldwin, they all try to lecture the general public, and the instant you start to try to lecture the public, that's when things really just go haywire and people decide to call it quits. People just don't see actors as mentors per se on a personal level, or people trying to lecture you when it comes to politics. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to deal with it in that, in that overall case specifically. However, people like to call it review bombing, she says, but I like to call it as people sharing their personal views of another individual who found success and a shred of jealousy that is showing from all these critics that seemingly can't stand the fact that we created something beautiful and for the soul. Let me just say one thing about Meghan, alright? Critics aren't jealous. People aren't jealous about this show. All they are doing is essentially displaying their frustration and their criticism with what Netflix has been up to for the past several months now by removing beloved content and putting on very much subpar content on their platform while raising prices for their subscription plans, essentially. She continues, "We created something inspiring. That is the magic for season 2. I don't care what anyone else says, but we have a silent majority out there that loves season 2. That is just waiting to come forward to show their love for the series. However, there is a fear of being made an example of for supporting something that is negatively received by critics, which is why you're not hearing from the positivity. And it's an unfortunate position that we are in right now." So again, we have a lot of people that has done this before in the past. When something fails, they immediately say, there's a silent majority, guys. I mean, look, there's a silent majority out there. This is not speaking up. There's a lot of people that love this product, a lot of people that love this show, but they're not saying anything. There are a lot of arguments that come from celebrities and personalities that bring that very thing up all the time. The silent majority. Alright, if you guys haven't heard about this before, keep note of it right now. Whenever you actually deal with a ratings disaster of a show or a box office failure, more often than not, a lot of celebrities or a lot of personalities like Meghan Markle, they will actually use that as their Hail Mary, or their backup plan to essentially use it as a form of their debate or a form of their argument that there are a hidden level of, I guess you could say, critics out there that enjoy a show as bad as this. And look, the fact that critics that once enjoyed, like I said before, season 1, they loved season 1, now they're showing their disgust with season 2, that shows you how terrible this season is in comparison to the last one. And look, let's be real, this is not a new season. They shot all the episodes at once, all 16 episodes at once, and they only call it a season 2 to create a facade that this show was actually renewed, that it was actually given a second season to make it seem like it was more successful than it really was. But overall, I would love to hear what everyone has to say about Meghan, Netflix, etc. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.